She laughed. You wouldn't last a day without me. Before slamming the door, I said, try me. When she came crawling back, what she saw inside the house shattered her ego completely. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. This happened over the past year, and I'm still processing it all. Fair warning, this is really long, but I promise it's worth the read if you stick with me to the end. I am 32, male, and I work in commercial real estate development. Not trying to brag here, but I make decent money. Around $185,000 base, plus bonuses that can easily double that in good years. Every penny was earned through blood, sweat, and late nights, though. Grew up dirt poor in East Texas with a mom who worked 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. Never knew my dad. Got into the University of Texas on academic scholarships and worked construction every summer to pay for books and everything else the scholarships didn't cover. The point is, I understand the value of hard work and money because I've lived without both. I've been with my ex, Madison, for 4 years, living together for the last 2.5. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags from day one, but she was gorgeous. And honestly, I was thinking with the wrong head. We all make that mistake. At least once, right? Met her at a farmer's market in downtown Austin on a Saturday morning. She was one of those Instagram influencer types. Not actually famous or anything. Just one of those girls who thinks photographing her acai bowl makes her an entrepreneur. Had maybe 3,500 followers at the time and called herself a lifestyle content creator with zero irony. I was immediately hooked because, honestly, I'd never dated anyone that polished and put together before. The first few months were absolutely incredible. She'd post these perfectly curated pictures of us at nice restaurants, weekend trips to San Antonio and Dallas, and shopping excursions around Austin. Everything looked like a magazine spread. But here's the thing I didn't notice at first. I was paying for literally everything. Every meal, every trip, every shopping bag that appeared. In those photos, she'd always say, "I'll get the next one, babe," with this sweet smile. And somehow next time never actually came. Here's where I really messed up. I started making really good money right around the time we got serious. Got promoted from junior project manager to senior, then to regional director within 18 months. Suddenly, I'm pulling in close to $300,000 some years when bonuses hit. And Madison's lifestyle expectations climbed right along with my paycheck, like we were on some kind of luxury elevator together. She moved into my downtown loft about 6 months into our relationship. I owned it outright thanks to some smart real estate investments I'd made early in my career when the market was down. 2-bedroom, 2-bath killer view of Ladybird Lake, worth about $850,000. Now, I was proud of that place. It represented everything I'd worked for. That's when Madison's domestic goddess phase started. She insisted on handling all the household management because it was important for the woman to create a nurturing home environment for her man. Sounds reasonable in theory, right? Like she wanted to contribute to our partnership in a meaningful way. Wrong. So very, very wrong. She took over grocery shopping first, and somehow our monthly food budget went from $400 to $1,500 almost overnight. Started ordering exclusively from premium organic stores. And those expensive meal kit services that cost more per serving than most people spend on dinner at a restaurant. Would throw away perfectly good food because it was past peak freshness. I'm talking about tossing $50 steaks because they'd been in the fridge for 2 days instead of 1. Then she took over decorating and spent $18,000 of my money creating a cohesive living space that reflects our shared values. Throughout furniture I actually liked and had emotional attachment to. Comfortable leather sectional I'd saved up for months to buy. Solid oak dining table my grandfather built with his own hands before he died. Vintage record collection display case I'd found it at an estate sale. Replaced everything with sterile white and gray minimalist stuff that looked like a medical office waiting room. Everything was Instagram ready, but nothing felt like home anymore. The absolute worst part was she'd constantly tell people how she had to manage everything because Jake would live like a bachelor caveman without me guiding his domestic choices. Would literally introduce me to her friends as my boyfriend, whom I'm house training. While they all laugh like it was adorable instead of completely humiliating, I'd stand there smiling awkwardly while she basically told everyone I was incompetent at basic life skills. But I let it slide because the physical relationship was great, and I genuinely thought this was just how serious adult relationships worked. Plus, she'd get genuinely upset whenever I questioned her spending decisions, saying I was prioritizing money over our partnership and didn't appreciate all the emotional labor she put into maintaining our home and relationship. Meanwhile, I'm working 60-hour weeks, handling every single bill, paying for her car insurance, phone plan, and gym membership, and giving her a $2,500 monthly allowance for personal expenses. She quit her part-time marketing job after 8 months because it was creating too much stress and interfering with her content creation goals. Content creation goals, right? For the next 3 years, I basically bankrolled Madison's entire lifestyle while she played house and pretended to be building a social media empire that would never actually materialize. Her daily routine was honestly laughable when I look back on it now. Wake up at 10 a.m., sometimes later, and make an elaborate breakfast that she'd photograph from 12 different angles for 30 minutes before actually eating it. Spent 3 hours curating content, which really meant scrolling through TikTok and Instagram for inspiration. Maybe attend a yoga class or Pilates session, shop for random stuff we absolutely didn't need, then complain about being completely exhausted. From managing our household and building her personal brand, the household management was a complete joke. She'd order groceries online through those expensive delivery services, but somehow always forget actual basics like milk, eggs, and bread. Would schedule repair appointments or service calls, then double book herself for lunch dates with friends and expect me to reschedule important client meetings to handle contractors. The place was constantly messy, despite her literally having all day, every day to maintain it. Because she'd start cleaning projects but never finish them. But heaven forbid I mentioned any of this or suggested maybe she could contribute more practically. She'd immediately flip the conversation to how unsupportive I was and how challenging it is to maintain a household while simultaneously building a personal brand from the ground up. Her brand, by the way, consisted almost entirely of posting selfies with inspirational quotes she found on Pinterest, and the occasional day-in-my-life video that showed her doing essentially nothing productive. The money situation got progressively worse as her expectations grew. Started asking for a bigger monthly allowance because inflation was affecting everything and her expenses were naturally increasing. Then it became an investment in her future career when she wanted a $4,000 professional camera and lighting setup. Then a $6,000 online course on social media mastery and monetization strategies taught by some influencer with maybe 80,000 followers. I was getting increasingly suspicious, but every time I brought up maybe getting even part-time work to contribute financially, she'd completely lose her mind. You want me to work some dead-end retail job while you make 6 figures? You obviously don't believe in my potential or entrepreneurial vision. I thought you were different from other guys who can't handle being with ambitious, driven women. Ambitious, driven. The delusion was absolutely staggering. The breaking point should have been last Christmas when she spent $9,000 of my money on gifts for her family and friends, designer purses, expensive jewelry, and premium spa packages, and then got me a $35 wallet from Target that still had the clearance sticker on it. When I questioned the massive disparity, she said, "It's not about the money. It's about thoughtfulness and showing people you care," with absolutely zero self-awareness about what that said about her feelings toward me. Or maybe it should have been when I overheard her telling her friends that I was completely devoted to her and would probably propose soon with a massive ring because he knows how lucky he is to have someone like me in his life. But like a complete idiot, I kept making excuses for her behavior. She was building her brand and needed time to establish herself. She was maintaining our home, and that was valuable unpaid labor. She was planning our future together, and that required emotional energy. All complete nonsense. But I was too emotionally invested to see the situation clearly. The real wake-up call came 3 months ago when I came home early from a client meeting because I had food poisoning. Felt absolutely terrible, nauseous, and dizzy. Just wanted to lie down in a dark room and recover. That's when I found Madison on our couch with Trevor, her personal trainer, and they definitely weren't discussing proper squat form or protein intake recommendations. So, there I am, standing in my own living room that I pay for entirely, watching my girlfriend of 4 years hooking up with some musclehead named Trevor, who I'd been indirectly paying for 2 years through her wellness and fitness budget. The sheer audacity was absolutely unbelievable. She wasn't embarrassed, ashamed, or apologetic, just annoyed that I'd interrupted her afternoon entertainment. Jake, you're supposed to be at the office until 6 o'clock today. Not, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, or this isn't what it looks like, or any normal human reaction to being caught cheating. Just irritated that I disrupted her carefully planned schedule like I was some inconvenient roommate who'd come home at the wrong time. Trevor at least had enough basic human decency to look uncomfortable, started frantically grabbing his clothes, and mumbling awkward apologies while trying to get dressed as quickly as possible. Madison just sat there with her arms crossed, looking at me like I was the one causing problems and being unreasonable. We need to talk right now, she said after Trevor practically sprinted out of there. Yeah, we absolutely do need to talk. That's when she hit me with the most self-centered, narcissistic nonsense I've ever heard in my life. Apparently, this whole situation was entirely my fault because I'd been emotionally unavailable for months and prioritizing work over our relationship and her emotional needs. She'd been feeling unfulfilled and disconnected for a long time. And Trevor actually listens to her aspirations and dreams instead of just throwing money at problems. You treat me like a roommate who you occasionally sleep with instead of a partner, she said with complete seriousness. Trevor sees me as a woman with real goals and supports my vision for the future. I almost started laughing. What goals exactly? What vision? You haven't worked in 3 years. I pay for literally everything while you play pretend influencer with your 4,000 followers. Wrong thing to say, apparently. She went completely ballistic and started screaming about how I never supported her entrepreneurial vision and clearly didn't understand the value of brand building in the modern economy. How I was just another boring finance guy who reduces women to their earning potential, and she was tired of sacrificing her dreams and authentic self for my comfort and conventional expectations. What dreams, Madison? Specifically, what have you actually accomplished in the 4 years we've been together besides spending my money? I've built a platform. I have almost 4,000 engaged followers who value my content in 4 years. That's roughly 20 new followers per month. My LinkedIn has more engagement, and I barely use it. That's when she played what she thought was her ace card. Her ultimate manipulation. Maybe I should just move out then, since you obviously don't appreciate what I bring to this relationship. See how you handle everything without me managing your life. You'll realize pretty quickly what I actually contribute here. I was done, completely and utterly finished with the entire charade. You know what? You're absolutely right. Pack your stuff and get out today. She clearly wasn't expecting that response. Thought I'd panic, beg her to stay, promise to change, and appreciate her more. Fine, but don't come crying to me when you realize you can't function like a normal adult without me organizing your life. This place will be a complete disaster within a week. You'll be eating takeout every meal and living in total chaos because you have no domestic skills whatsoever. We'll see about that. You will see. And when you're ready to apologize and truly appreciate what you had with me, maybe I'll consider giving you another chance if you've learned your lesson. She packed 2 suitcases that night, but not before delivering her final dramatic monologue at the door like she was starring in her own reality show. I'm giving you exactly 1 week, Jake. 1 week later, you're desperately begging me to come back and fix the mess you've made. You need me way more than you realize, and you're about to find that out the hard way. I just smiled calmly and said, try me. The door slammed, and 4 years of complete nonsense officially ended forever. The very first thing I did was change every single password. Bank accounts, streaming services, building access codes, credit cards, everything she'd ever had access to. Then I called my locksmith first thing the next morning and had every lock in the place changed before noon. Then I started actually cleaning my own home for the first time in years. And good grief, what I discovered was absolutely disgusting. Remember how Madison was supposedly maintaining our household as her major contribution? Well, maintaining apparently meant shoving dirty dishes under the sink whenever she was too lazy to actually wash them. Found plates and cups from literally weeks ago growing legitimate science experiments. The smell coming from under there was absolutely revolting, like something had died and been forgotten. The closets were absolutely packed with shopping bags full of clothes she'd bought and never even worn once. Still had price tags attached, some still in store bags. Did a quick mental inventory, and there was easily $25,000 worth of impulsive purchases just sitting there collecting dust. Designer handbags, shoes, clothes, jewelry, makeup, and skincare. Products, all bought with my money and completely forgotten about within days. Found her business expense notebook, where she'd been meticulously tracking her influencer costs for tax purposes. Apparently, this woman had categorized literally everything as a business expense. $400 dinners, spa treatments, shopping trips, weekend getaways, and even vacations. All to justify spending my money on whatever caught her attention while pretending it was an investment in her career. But the real revelation was her laptop, which she'd completely forgotten about in her dramatic rush to leave. Still logged into everything. Email, social media, messaging apps, cloud storage, all of it. Her message history was an absolute goldmine of truth. Conversations with Trevor going back 8 months. And it wasn't just flirting and hooking up. She'd been constantly bad-mouthing me, calling me financially stable but boring, saying she was working on her exit strategy and how she'd probably get at least half his assets when they eventually broke up since we'd been together so long. But the messages with her girlfriends were even worse. There was an actual group chat called Sugar Baby Strategies where they'd rate their boyfriends on earning potential versus maintenance effort and share tactics for maximizing financial benefits while minimizing emotional investment. One message from 2 months before our breakup. Jake is so whipped he'd probably pay my rent even after we break up. These finance guys are so desperate for attractive women. They'll do literally anything to keep us happy and around. Another absolute gem. Already accumulated like $70,000 worth of jewelry over 4 years. And he thinks it's all romantic and meaningful, going to sell most of it after we split and use the money to move to Los Angeles and start fresh. The jewelry. I'd bought her probably $75,000 worth of jewelry over the years for birthdays, Christmas, Valentine's Day, and random, just because I love you gifts. All supposedly meaningful symbols of our relationship and my feelings for her. I spent the next 3 days methodically documenting everything I found. Photos of the hidden mess she'd left behind. Screenshots of all her messages and conversations. Receipts for everything I'd purchased for her over the years. Bank statements showing exactly how much money had flowed from my accounts to support her lifestyle. Not for legal purposes necessarily, just so I had a completely clear picture of how thoroughly and systematically I'd been manipulated and used. Then I got to work completely reclaiming my space and my life. The next month, any warning or permission, I was returning home from a meeting with potential investors about funding my expanding real estate ventures when I spotted her in the lobby looking absolutely terrible. Cheap clothes from discount stores, no makeup, hair in a messy ponytail, and dark circles under her eyes. Nothing like the perfectly polished Instagram princess I'd been financially supporting for 4 years. Jake, thank goodness you're here. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Madison, you need to leave this building immediately. Please, just give me 5 minutes of your time. I desperately need help, and you're the only person who might understand. That's when absolutely everything came pouring out of her. She was completely broke, essentially homeless, and had been couch surfing with different friends for 2 weeks because nobody wanted her staying long-term. Her parents had completely cut her off financially after discovering the cheating and the way she treated me. Her friends were exhausted from constantly supporting her emotionally and financially. She'd applied for dozens of jobs, but had virtually no real work experience or marketable skills after years of playing pretend entrepreneur. I messed up completely, and I know that now, she said, crying genuine tears for probably the first time in our entire relationship. I thought I could make it on my own, but I can't handle any of this. I need you, Jake. I need help. For just a brief moment, I almost felt some sympathy for her situation. She looked genuinely broken and desperate. Then I remembered 4 years of being treated like a human ATM machine. The constant disrespect and manipulation, the cheating, the Sugar Baby Strategies group chat, all of it. You told me I couldn't function like an adult without you managing my life, I said very calmly. That I'd be begging you to come back within a week because I needed you so desperately. I was completely wrong about that I was angry and said stupid things I didn't mean. You're honestly the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was too immature to appreciate it. How interesting that you only realized that after your backup plan completely failed and you hit rock bottom. She grabbed my arm desperately, which I immediately pulled away from. Please, Jake, I'll do absolutely anything. I'll get a real full-time job and work hard. I'll pay you back every single penny over time. I'll sign any agreement you want about our relationship. Just please help. me get back on my feet. You want my help with something? Yes. Anything you're willing to do? I pulled out my phone and showed her my investment account balance. Thanks to several major successful deals that week, it was sitting at exactly $1 per million. Her eyes went completely wide with shock and something that looked like hunger. You're actually a millionaire now. Getting very close. Yeah. And you know what the most incredible part is? I accomplished all of this in the 3 months since you left my life. Turns out I'm incredibly productive and focused when I'm not financially supporting a parasite who contributes nothing. I watched the hope in her eyes completely die. So here's exactly what I'm going to do to help you. I continued. I'm going to give you precisely what you gave me for 4 years. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. Jake, please. I'm begging you. You called me a boring finance guy who would never amount to anything special without you managing my life. You told your friends I was so desperate and pathetic. I'd probably pay your bills even after you dumped me. You spent 4 years treating me like your personal bank account while hooking up behind my back and planning your exit strategy. She was sobbing uncontrollably now, making a scene in my lobby. I'm so sorry. I was young and stupid and selfish. I've learned my lesson completely. I swear. Good for you. Learning difficult lessons builds character. You should probably thank me for providing you with this growth opportunity. I started walking toward the elevator to end this conversation permanently. Jake, you can't just abandon me like this. I have nowhere else to go. I turned back one final time. Watch me. As the elevator doors closed, I could still hear her in the lobby crying and begging my doorman to let her wait for me to change my mind. I immediately texted building management to have her permanently banned from the property for harassment. Final update. 6 months later, my real estate investment company got acquired by a major development firm for $18 million. I'm officially set for life at 32 years old, completely financially independent, and building something meaningful. Madison, according to the few mutual friends we still share, is working at a call center, making $12 per hour, and living with 3 roommates in a terrible apartment on the other side of town. Her Instagram account now has about 180 followers and mainly consists of generic inspirational quotes about rebuilding from rock bottom and learning to love yourself first. The kind of content people post when their lives have completely fallen apart. Sometimes I genuinely wonder what would have happened if I'd taken her back that day in my lobby when she was crying and begging. How she would have promised to change and be different, acted grateful and supportive for maybe a few weeks, then slowly reverted to her old entitled parasitic behavior once she felt secure and comfortable again. Instead, I learned the most valuable lesson of my entire life. Never reward someone for treating you terribly, no matter how much they cry and beg when the natural consequences finally catch up to them. The best revenge isn't getting even or trying to hurt someone back. They're becoming so successful and fulfilled that their presence in your life becomes completely irrelevant. Madison was right about one thing, though. I absolutely couldn't last a single day without her. I've lasted 6 months and counting, and I've never been happier, wealthier, or more at peace with my felt like getting my actual soul back after years of having it slowly drained away. The first order of business was dealing with all her abandoned possessions. The clothes, shoes, purses, jewelry, everything went to a high-end consignment shop downtown. Made about $18,000 total, which I immediately donated to a local domestic violence shelter because it seemed appropriate given the circumstances. Then I started replacing all the sterile white furniture with pieces I actually enjoyed being around. Got my grandfather's dining table out of storage, where it had been sitting sadly for 3 years. Bought a genuinely comfortable leather sectional where I could actually relax instead of worrying about disrupting the aesthetic. Properly displayed my record collection again in a way that made me happy to look at. The place started feeling like an actual home again instead of a sterile showroom designed for social media photos. Started cooking real food again for the first time in years. Turns out I'm actually quite good at it when I'm not being constantly criticized for every ingredient choice and cooking method. Made proper steaks, learned to smoke brisket on my balcony setup, and even got into making fresh bread from scratch. On weekends, food tastes so much better when you're not stressed about someone judging your efforts. But the absolute best part was the incredible peaceful silence. No constant stream of complaints about how bored she was, how her friends were, all doing better than her, or how I needed to take her somewhere new and expensive every weekend to keep her entertained. No drama, no manipulation, no walking on eggshells, just productive, peaceful quiet where I could actually think clearly for the first time in years. My work performance improved dramatically, almost immediately, without the constant emotional drama and financial stress. I could finally focus on a side project I'd been developing for months, but never had the mental energy to complete. A data analytics approach to real estate investment that I'd been too distracted and drained to properly develop. Finally got it working effectively and started testing it with small property investments using my savings. Meanwhile, I was watching Madison's social media presence slowly implode in real time, and it was honestly fascinating. The first week after she left, she was posting all this stuff about her exciting new chapter and finally being free to pursue her authentic self without compromise. Living with Trevor in his studio apartment, posting gym selfies and motivational quotes about knowing your worth and never settling for less than you deserve. In week 2, the posts started getting more desperate and defensive. Sometimes the universe tests us to make us stronger, and real men aren't intimidated by ambitious, independent women and other barely disguised attempts to justify her situation. Week 3 brought the real drama when Trevor got fired from the gym for inappropriate conduct with multiple clients. Apparently, I wasn't the only one getting played by this guy. Madison's post became increasingly unhinged rants about fake people who don't appreciate authenticity and how money doesn't buy genuine happiness or fulfillment. Meanwhile, my investment strategy was showing real promise. Made $65,000 in 3 weeks on a commercial property flip that I'd identified and analyzed using my new system. Not life-changing money at my income level, but solid proof that the concept actually worked in practice. I started getting random messages from Madison's friends asking if I was doing okay emotionally and if I needed any support during this difficult transition. Obviously just fishing for information to report back to Madison about how devastated I supposedly was. I kept all responses simple and positive. Doing great, actually. Thanks for checking in, though. Month 2 after the breakup is when things got really interesting to watch unfold. Madison's independent new life was collapsing faster than anyone could have predicted. Trevor's sudden unemployment meant she actually had to get real employment. For the first time in over 3 years. Started working at some boutique downtown for $16 per hour, which had to be a massive psychological shock for someone who'd been living off my 6-figure income without any work requirements. Her social media presence basically died completely because she no longer had the time, money, or lifestyle to create the content she'd been posting for years. Can't photograph expensive meals when you're eating ramen noodles for dinner. Can't post gym selfies when you can't afford the membership fees. You can't showcase your amazing lifestyle when you're working retail and living in a studio apartment. The apartment situation with Trevor was apparently absolutely terrible, according to mutual friends. Studio in a rough part of town, no air conditioning during Austin summer. Upstairs, neighbors who partied until 4 a.m. every night. Not exactly the influencer lifestyle she'd been promoting to her followers for years. That's when the indirect contact attempts started happening. First, her sister called me out of nowhere to check on how I was handling everything and casually mentioned how Madison was really struggling with the transition to independence but learning valuable life lessons. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Then, her mother sent me a long text message saying she was proud of Madison for finally standing on her own 2 feet, but genuinely concerned about her financial situation and wondering if I might consider helping her get properly established as a friend. Regardless of our romantic history, I ignored absolutely all of it. Didn't respond to anything. My investment strategy was proving consistently profitable now. I'd made about $250,000 in additional income over 2 months, which I immediately reinvested into larger properties with better profit potential. Started seriously considering leaving my day job entirely to focus on real estate development full-time. Also started casually dating again for the first time in 4 years. Nothing serious or committed, just coffee dates and casual encounters. But it felt absolutely incredible to remember what it was like to spend time with women who actually contributed to their own lives and had interesting things to talk about beyond social media follower counts. That's apparently when Madison completely lost whatever remained of her composure. One of her friends, who I'd remained friendly with, told me that Madison had been obsessively asking about my rebound relationships and whether I seemed completely devastated and broken about our breakup. When she was told that I actually seemed happier and more relaxed than I'd been in years, Madison apparently screamed that I was obviously just putting on an act to save face and would come crawling back once the reality of loneliness set in. The level of delusion was absolutely breathtaking. But the absolute best part was still coming. 3 months after she walked out of my life, Madison's carefully constructed world completely imploded in the most spectacular way possible, and I had front row seats to watch every single moment of it. Trevor dumped her for another gym regular he'd been seeing on the side, leaving Madison completely stuck with the lease on their awful studio apartment that she couldn't possibly afford on her retail salary. The boutique fired her after just 6 weeks for constantly arriving late, spending more time taking selfies in the store mirrors than helping actual customers, and generally having a terrible attitude about basic work responsibilities. Her car got repossessed because she'd been 3 months behind on payments. Apparently, assuming I was still handling all her bills automatically, even though we'd broken up, her credit cards got maxed out and then canceled. She was basically financially destroyed within 90 days of leaving my comfortable, stable home. That's when she started reaching out to me directly for the first time since she'd slammed my door. First text message: "Hey, I know things ended really badly between us, but I think I left some important paperwork at your place. Would it be possible for me to come by and get it sometime this week?" There was absolutely no paperwork. I'd thrown out the few random documents she'd left behind months earlier. I didn't respond to that message or acknowledge it in any way. The next message was 2 days later. "I'm going through a really difficult time right now and could honestly use someone to talk to about everything. You were always such a good listener and gave great advice. Could we maybe meet for coffee as friends?" Still no response from me. Then, "Jake, I made a huge mistake with everything that happened. Trevor was just a stupid rebound thing, and I never actually got over you or stopped caring about what we had. Can we at least meet somewhere neutral and talk about everything that went wrong?" Nope. Delete. The messages started getting increasingly desperate and frequent as her situation got worse. She'd obviously been stalking my social media and seeing posts about my successful investments and growing business. She could see that I was thriving while her life was falling apart, and it was driving her absolutely crazy. That's when she decided to show up at my building in person without